The city hums its quiet late-night tune, but here in this room, it's just me and the glow of my phone. The world outside is asleep, but my mind is wide awake, lost in the endless scroll. The digital clock on my screen silently flips to 2:13 a.m. It's funny how time just melts away in the dark, each minute blurring into the next. I'm just about to put the phone down, to finally surrender to sleep, when it happens. A soft buzz against my palm, a vibration that feels different. I glance down, my eyes struggling to focus on the screen, and that's when I see it. The caller ID. It's a number I know better than my own. It's my number. A cold wave washes over me. My own number is calling me. How is that even possible? My heart starts to pound, a frantic drum against the silence of the room. It's got to be a glitch, right? Some weird network error. That's the only logical explanation. I let it ring, watching my own name flash on the screen, feeling a strange mix of confusion and a creeping sense of dread. The call ends. Silence returns. I let out a breath I didn't realize I was holding. A system bug. That's all. But then it buzzes again, the same number, my number. This time, a knot tightens in my stomach. Curiosity, mixed with a healthy dose of fear, gets the better of me. My thumb hovers over the green icon. Should I answer? What could possibly be on the other end of the line? A prank? A hacker? Something else? My hand is trembling slightly as I swipe to answer. I press the phone to my ear, my breath caught in my throat. For a moment, there's nothing, just static. A faint hissing sound like an old radio searching for a station. Hello. I whisper, my voice barely audible. The static crackles in response. Is anyone there? I ask again, a little louder this time. The hissing seems to pulse, almost like it's breathing. Then through the noise, a voice emerges. Faint, distorted, but undeniably familiar. It's a whisper, raspy and strained. Don't go to the old house tomorrow, it says. My blood runs cold. The voice, it sounds like me. An older, more tired version of me. It's impossible. I must be dreaming. This has to be some kind of hallucination brought on by lack of sleep. Who is this? I demand, my voice shaking. What old house? The only response is a surge in the static, and then a chillingly clear whisper that slices through the noise. The one from your childhood. Don't go. You won't come back. And then the line goes dead. I stare at my phone, the call and its screen glowing eerily in the dark. My own number. A warning from a voice that sounded like my own. A warning about a place I haven't thought about in years. The old, abandoned house at the end of my childhood street. We're all moving out of town tomorrow, and I'd planned to take one last look. One final goodbye to the place that held so many memories. But now, this call. Coincidence? A cruel joke? Or something else entirely? A warning from the future sent across time through a glitch in the network? I don't know what to believe, but one thing is certain. Sleep is the last thing on my mind now. What would you do? Would you go? Let me know in the comments. Thanks for watching, and if you like mysteries like this, make sure to subscribe. Hey everyone, and welcome back to the channel. Today, we're diving into a story that blurs the line between a chilling prank and a terrifying premonition. It's one of those tales that makes you question everything you think you know about time, reality, and the strange echoes of our own lives. So grab your headphones, turn down the lights, and let's get into it. Our story begins with Sarah, a young architect living in a bustling city. She was known for her logical mind, her love for clean lines and solid foundations. The supernatural was just stuff for movies, not something that touched her well-ordered life. One rainy Tuesday evening, that all changed. She was sketching designs for a new project, a pedestrian bridge meant to connect two rapidly growing neighborhoods. Her phone buzzed, displaying an unknown number. Usually, she'd ignore it, but something compelled her to answer. She picked up. Hello? The line was filled with a crackling static, like an old radio struggling to find a station. It was so thick she almost hung up, thinking it was a bad connection. But then, through the noise, a voice emerged. It was faint, trembling, and eerily familiar. A woman's voice, choked with a desperate urgency. "Don't go near the bridge tomorrow," it whispered, the words stretched and warped by the static. Sarah frowned, confused. "Excuse me? Who is this?" The voice grew a little clearer, a little more desperate. "Please," it begged. "I'm begging you. Don't go." "It's not safe." Sarah's confusion turned to annoyance. Was this some kind of sick joke? "Look, I don't know who you are, but this isn't funny." But before she could say more, the voice on the other end delivered a line that froze the blood in her veins. "I'm you." Her eyes widened in disbelief. The voice was distorted, yes, but underneath the static, it had her own cadence, her own pitch. It was like listening to a recording of herself played through a broken speaker. A wave of cold dread washed over her. Before she could even form a question, there was a sharp click, and the line went dead. Sarah sat there, phone pressed to her ear, listening to the eerie silence. Her heart was hammering against her ribs. She tried calling the number back, but it went straight to a generic "this number is not in service" message. She paced her apartment, trying to rationalize what just happened. It had to be a prank. Maybe a friend using a voice-changing app. But who would be so cruel? And how could they mimic her voice so perfectly, even through the distortion? The sheer panic in the voice felt too real, too raw to be faked. That night, sleep offered no escape. She tossed and turned, the disembodied voice echoing in her mind. "Don't go near the bridge tomorrow." "I'm you." The next morning, she woke up exhausted and on edge. The sun was shining, a stark contrast to the gloom that had settled over her. She had a crucial site meeting scheduled at the very bridge she was designing. It was a career-defining project. Missing it was unthinkable. She told herself it was just a dream, a stress-induced hallucination. She had to be professional. As she drove to the site, a sense of foreboding weighed her down. Every traffic light seemed to mock her. Every passing car felt like a potential threat. The closer she got, the louder the phantom voice seemed to get in her head. She pulled over a block away from the construction site, her hands shaking on the steering wheel. Was she really going to let a bizarre phone call derail her career? It was absurd. She took a deep breath, ready to dismiss the whole thing and drive on. Just then, her phone rang again. This time it was her boss. "Sarah, where are you? Don't come to the site. Turn on the news." Her heart leaped into her throat. She fumbled with the car radio, her fingers clumsy with dread. A news bulletin cut through the music. A catastrophic structural failure, a sudden unexpected collapse. The new pedestrian bridge, her bridge, had crumbled into the river below. Reports were still coming in, but there were multiple casualties. Sarah stared at the windshield, seeing nothing. The image of the collapsed bridge filled her mind, a twisted wreck of steel, and concrete where she was supposed to have been standing just minutes ago. The trembling, static-filled voice from the night before was no prank. It was a warning. It was her own voice, reaching back from a future that almost was, a future where she hadn't listened. She sat in her car, surrounded by the normal sounds of the city, but all she could hear was the click of a phone call ending and the deafening silence that followed. She was alive, thanks to a call from herself, and she knew her life and her understanding of reality would never be the same again. What do you all think? Was it a guardian angel, a glitch in the timeline, or something else entirely? Let me know your theories down in the comments. Thanks so much for watching, and if you enjoyed this story, make sure to hit that like button and subscribe for more. We'll see you in the next one. The sun is hitting the windshield just right, making the whole world sparkle. Another perfect Tuesday, right? Driving, windows down, my favorite playlist blasting. Honestly, you couldn't ask for a better day. I'm heading over the Miller Bridge, the same route I take every single morning. The river below is just glass, not a single ripple. It's so calm. You could almost forget you're in the middle of a bustling city with cars whizzing by. Everything feels normal, too normal, maybe. But then my brain decides to be a jerk and replay that phone call from last night. It was just static at first, like an old radio trying to find a station. Then this voice, all crackly and distant, whispered my name. Just Sarah, nothing else. I hung up, obviously. Probably just a wrong number, some weirdo, or a glitchy telemarketer. I even laughed about it, told myself to stop watching so many true crime documentaries. It's daylight, I'm safe, I'm in my car. What's there to be scared of? Still, I can't shake this weird feeling. It's like a little pebble in my shoe, a tiny annoyance that's starting to really dig in. I glance at my phone, dark and silent on the passenger seat. Part of me expects it to light up again, to hear that same whisper. I crank up the music, trying to drown out the thought. It's just a prank call. It has to be. My knuckles are a little white on the steering wheel, I notice. Okay, maybe I'm a little more freaked out than I thought. The bridge seems longer today. The traffic is moving at a snail's pace, which is unusual for this time of day. Up ahead, I can see a couple of police cars, their lights flashing silently in the bright sun. An accident, probably. That would explain the slowdown. As I inch closer, I can see a small crowd gathering on the walkway, all looking down at the river. My heart does this weird little flip-flop thing in my chest. Probably nothing. It's always nothing, but that voice. Sarah. It echoes in my head, and suddenly, the static doesn't sound so random anymore. It sounds like water, like the river. I slow the car to a crawl, my eyes fixed on the scene. A police officer is talking to a woman who's sobbing. Another is looking over the edge of the bridge with binoculars. The beautiful sunny day suddenly feels cold, and the calm river doesn't look so peaceful anymore. It looks hungry. It looks like it's holding a secret, and I have this horrible sinking feeling that the secret has something to do with me. I never believed in premonitions, you know? That little voice, that gut feeling that screams something is wrong. I always dismissed it as just anxiety, a bad day. But that night, everything changed. It started like any other evening. I was driving home, the city lights a familiar, comforting blur. The radio was playing some forgettable pop song, and I was mentally running through my to-do list for the next day. Work, groceries, call my mom, the usual. But as I got closer to the old steel bridge that spanned the river, a strange feeling washed over me, a cold, heavy dread that settled deep in my stomach. It was like the air itself grew thicker, harder to breathe. I slowed down, my hands gripping the steering wheel a little tighter. Up ahead, I saw them, flashing lights. Red and blue, slicing through the darkness, painting the girders of the bridge in frantic, strabbing colors. My heart started to pound against my ribs, a frantic drumbeat against the sudden silence in my car. I hadn't even realized I'd deturned the radio off. Police cars were angled across the road, blocking all the lanes. An ambulance was parked askew, its back doors flung open. The scene was chaotic, a whirlwind of motion and urgency that felt surreal. I pulled over to the shoulder, my car idling, and got out. I don't know why. I should have just turned around, taken the long way home. But something pulled me forward, an invisible string reeling me in. The wind whipped off the river, cold and sharp, biting at my cheeks. It carried the metallic tang of something awful, something I didn't want to name. I walked closer, my feet feeling like lead. My eyes were glued to the wreckage in the center of the bridge. A car, or what was left of it, was flipped onto its roof. The metal was twisted and mangled, a grotesque sculpture of glass and steel. It was unrecognizable. I could hear the hushed, urgent tones of the first responders, their voices muffled by the wind. A firefighter was spraying foam onto a patch of road, and paramedics were working frantically near the overturned vehicle. The whole scene felt distant, like I was watching it on a movie screen. My mind was racing, trying to make sense of it. Who was it? Did they have family? Were they okay? The questions spun in my head, a dizzying carousel of worry for a complete stranger. I took another step, then another, until I was just at the edge of the police tape. A cop with a tired face saw me and held up a hand. "Ma'am, you need to stay back. This is an active scene." I just nodded, unable to speak. My throat was tight, my mouth dry. And that's when I heard it. A voice cutting through the noise. It was another officer reading from a small notepad, his words crackling over a radio. The wind seemed to die down for just a second, creating a pocket of terrifying clarity. I heard his voice echo, just two words that felt like they were spoken directly into my soul. A name I knew better than my own. A name that was impossible to hear in this context, in this place, at this time. He said the driver's name was Sarah Hill. Time stopped. The flashing lights, the wind, the urgent voices, it all faded into a dull, distant hum. Sarah Hill, that's my name. But I was standing right here. I was alive. I was breathing. My hand flew to my chest, feeling the frantic thump, thump, thump of my own heart. I looked at my car, parked safely on the shoulder. Then I looked back at the wreck. It couldn't be. It was a mistake. A coincidence. There must be another Sarah Hill. There had to be. But the dread that had been sitting in my stomach now felt like a block of ice, spreading through my veins. A cold, stark terror unlike anything I had ever known. I felt a scream building in my throat, silent and raw. I looked at the officer, then at the mangled car, then at my own hands, shaking uncontrollably. My mind was a blank slate, wiped clean by two impossible words. If that was Sarah Hill in the car, then who or what was I? The world tilted on its axis, and the night, the bridge, the flashing lights, all began to blur into one terrifying, unending question. What is happening to me? The silence in my apartment isn't peaceful anymore. It's heavy, suffocating. Every creak of the floorboards, every distant siren, it all just magnifies the quiet. I've been sitting here for hours, just staring at my phone. It's become this black mirror, reflecting my own growing fear. My hands are shaking so much I can barely hold it steady. I keep telling myself it was just a prank call. A wrong number, a dream. But the dread coiling in my gut knows better. It started last night, or maybe the night before. The days are starting to blur together. The first time it rang, the screen just showed unknown caller. I almost ignored it. Who answers those anyway, right? But it was late, really late, and something just compelled me. I picked up, said hello. Nothing. Just a sound like wind rushing through a broken microphone. A faint crackling static that made the hairs on my arms stand up. I hung up, shrugged it off. Weird, but whatever. Then it happened again, the next night, same time. Same unknown caller. This time the static was louder, more insistent. And underneath it, I could almost hear something else. A whisper, so faint I thought I was imagining it. I hung up faster this time, my heart starting to pound. I turned on all the lights, checked the locks on my doors and windows for the 10th time. I told myself I was being paranoid. But paranoia doesn't call you back. It doesn't have a voice. Tonight, I knew it would ring. I felt it. The air got thick around 2 a.m. I watched the clock on my phone, each number changing like a countdown. 2:10, 2:11, 2:12. My breath caught in my throat. And then, right on schedule, the screen lit up. The vibration on the wooden table sounded like a jackhammer. Unknown caller. I stared at it, my thumb hovering over the green icon. Don't answer. Just don't answer. Let it go to voicemail. block the number. Except you can't block unknown. My mind was screaming at me to throw the phone against the wall, but my body wouldn't move. It was like being trapped in a nightmare. The ringing seemed to get louder, more demanding, echoing in the dead quiet of my apartment. With a hand that felt like it belonged to someone else, I swiped to answer. I didn't say anything. I just listened. The static was there, a roar of white noise filling my ear, and then the whisper. It was clearer this time. A dry, chilling sound like dead leaves scraping across pavement. A voice that was barely human, and it said two words that shattered my world. You didn't listen? I dropped the phone. It clattered to the floor, the screen now dark, but the whisper, it wasn't just in the phone anymore. It was in the room. It was in my head. You didn't listen. What did I not listen to? What warning did I ignore? I backed away from the phone, pressing myself into the corner of the room, my eyes darting into the shadows. The static is gone, but I can still hear it, faintly, and I know with a certainty that freezes my soul that the phone will ring again. And next time, the voice won't be a whisper, and it won't be coming from the phone. It will be right here, beside me. The first call came on a Tuesday. A muffled voice, just a string of numbers. I dismissed it, a wrong number, a prank. But then it happened again, Friday. Same garbled tone, another sequence of digits. That's when the curiosity started to gnaw at me. By the third call, a week later, curiosity had curdled into something else. Fear. The numbers weren't random. I wrote them down, my hand shaking slightly. 8, 15, 22. What did they mean? I started a board, just a simple corkboard at first, to keep track. The first pen was for that first call. A little note with the date and the numbers, then another and another. Soon, the board wasn't just for the calls. It was for everything. Every little thing that felt off. The flickering streetlights outside my window. The strange static on the radio at precisely 3:17 a.m., the single magpie that sat on my fence every single morning, staring at my kitchen window. Was I going crazy, or was it all connected? The numbers kept coming, sometimes with a word whispered between them. Bridge, tower, station. I bought a city map and started pinning locations. The old rail bridge that's been abandoned for years. The water tower on Miller's Hill, Grand Central Station. The pins formed a jagged, nonsensical pattern across the city. I spent my nights staring at it, fueled by coffee and a growing sense of dread. The photographs came next. I started taking pictures of the locations, looking for clues, for anything out of the ordinary. A graffiti tag that wasn't there yesterday. A car that seemed to be parked in the same spot for days. My friends think I'm losing it. Sarah, you look exhausted, they say. You're getting obsessed. Maybe they're right. My world has shrunk to this wall, this chaotic constellation of string, pins, and fear. The photographs stare back at me, faces of strangers in the background. Could one of them be the caller? My sleep is filled with nightmares, the sound of a ringing phone I can't answer, whispers of numbers I can't decipher. But I can't stop. I feel like I am on the edge of a discovery, of understanding something huge and terrifying. The calls are a puzzle, and I'm the only one who can solve it. The problem is, I'm not sure I want to know the answer. Last night, the call was different. The voice was clearer. It wasn't numbers this time. It was a name, my name. Sarah, it whispered, and then the line went dead. Now I look at my board, at the web of connections I've spun. It's no longer just a puzzle. It's a net, and it's closing in. I've been trying to decode their calls, but maybe, just maybe, they've been decoding me all along. The pins, the maps, the photos. They aren't just clues. They're a countdown. And I have a terrifying feeling that time is about to run out. What happens when the next call comes? I don't know, but I have to be ready. Thanks for listening to my story. If you want to see what happens next, make sure to subscribe. Hello everyone, and welcome back to the channel. Today, we're diving into a story that blurs the lines between technology, memory, and reality. It starts with a simple voice memo, a moment of raw, unfiltered emotion that spirals into something truly unsettling. Let's explore the chilling tale of Sarah. It was a Tuesday, just like any other, except for the weight pressing down on Sarah's chest. The feeling had been growing for weeks, a strange sense of displacement, as if she were watching her own life through a pane of glass. Conversations felt distant, her own actions seemed foreign. She'd defined herself in the middle of a task with no memory of how she started it. Her friends said it was just stress, but Sarah knew it was something more. That evening, sitting alone in her dimly lit apartment, the feeling became unbearable. She felt like a stranger in her own skin, desperate for some kind of anchor, some proof of her own existence. She picked up her phone. Her hands trembled as she opened the voice recording app. She needed to hear her own voice to document this terrifying feeling, to send a message to, well, she wasn't sure who. Maybe to the real Sarah, wherever she was. She pressed the red button and brought the phone to her lips. A sob escaped her throat before any words could. "I don't know who I am anymore," she whispered, her voice cracking. "Every day. It's like I'm a puppet. I watch myself say things, do things, but it's not me. It's not my choice." She paused, taking a shaky breath. The silence in the room felt deafening, amplifying her own heartbeat. "There's this other person, this other version of me," she continued, tears streaming down her face. "She's wearing my clothes, living my life, and I'm just trapped inside, screaming." She looked at a framed photo on her nightstand, a picture of her smiling with her family. The woman in the photo looked happy, carefree. She felt a million miles away from that person. If this is me, if this is what I've become, tell me how to stop it. She was about to end the recording, to send this desperate plea into the void, when her phone suddenly lit up. An incoming call, unknown number. Her finger hovered over the screen, a jolt of fear and curiosity running through her. Before she could decline, the call connected automatically. The voice memo she was just recording began to play back in her ear, but it was distorted, glitchy, layered with faint overlapping whispers that sounded eerily familiar. Her own desperate words echoed back at her. "Tell me how to stop it." The recording cut off abruptly. Silence stretched for a heart-stopping second. Then a voice answered. It was calm, cold, and unnervingly clear. It was her own voice, yet it was completely devoid of the emotion she had just poured out. "You can't," it said. The line went dead. Sarah dropped the phone as if it were burning hot. The screen was black. She tried to turn it back on, but it was useless. The room was silent again, but now the silence wasn't empty. It was filled with the chilling finality of those two words. She wasn't just feeling lost anymore. She was being replaced, and the person replacing her had just let her know there was no escape. The battle for her own mind had just begun, and she had just been told it was already over. What do you think happened to Sarah? Is it a psychological break, a supernatural event, or something else entirely? Let me know your theories down in the comments. This story really stuck with me, and I can't wait to hear what you all think. If you enjoyed this dive into the unsettling, make sure to hit that like button and subscribe for more content. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. The old house creaked around me, a familiar symphony of settling wood and sighing drafts. I'd always found comfort in its groans, but tonight, each sound was a sharp jab in the unsettling quiet. The space Sarah used to fill felt cavernous, a hollow ache in the center of my chest. It had been 3 months since she vanished. 3 months of police reports, missing person flyers, and the sympathetic, pitying eyes of friends and strangers. 3 months of sleeping on her side of the bed, hoping to catch a lingering scent of her perfume, a whisper of her presence. It was 2:13 a.m. I know the exact time because I'd been staring at the digital clock on the nightstand for what felt like an eternity, watching the numbers flick over with agonizing slowness. Sleep was a stranger I no longer knew. My mind was a relentless loop of her last words to me, a casual "see you tonight," as she left for work. The memory now twisted into something sinister. Where did she go? The question echoed in the silent room, a taunt without an answer. The police had no leads. Her car was still in the office parking garage. Her wallet and keys were on her desk. It was as if she had simply evaporated. My gaze drifted from the clock to my phone, lying dark and silent on the nightstand beside me. For weeks, I'd willed it to ring to bring news any news. But it never did. My world had shrunk to this room, to the endless cycle of waiting and remembering. I remembered our first date, how she laughed so hard at my terrible joke that she snorted, then turned a brilliant shade of red. I remembered the day we brought our dog, Buster, home, a tiny ball of fluff who immediately chewed through my favorite sneakers. I remembered the quiet Sunday mornings tangled in sheets, the sunlight painting stripes across the floor, her head resting on my shoulder. These memories were both a comfort and a torture. They were all I had left of her, and yet they highlighted the gaping hole she'd left behind. The silence in the house was the loudest noise I'd ever heard. It screamed her absence. I reached for my phone, my thumb hovering over her picture in my contacts. I'd called her voicemail 1,000 times just to hear her recorded voice, a cheerful greeting that now felt like a cruel joke. "Hey, you've reached Sarah. Leave a message and I'll call you back." She never did. Suddenly, the silence was shattered. My phone buzzed against the wood, a violent, jarring rattle in the dead of night. It lit up the room with an almost blinding white light. My heart hammered against my ribs, a frantic, panicked drumbeat. Who would be calling at this hour? My blood ran cold as I read the name on the screen. It wasn't a name I was expecting. It was a name that shouldn't have been possible. Incoming call. Sarah Hill. The world tilted. My breath hitched in my throat. This had to be a dream, a hallucination brought on by grief and sleeplessness. It couldn't be real. Her phone was in an evidence bag at the police station. I'd seen it myself, yet there it was. Her name, her picture, the one I took on our trip to the coast, with the wind whipping through her hair and the sun making her eyes sparkle. The phone continued its relentless buzzing, each vibration a shockwave through my system. My hand trembled as I reached for it. Was it a cruel prank? A hacker? Had a police officer made a terrible mistake? 1,000 frantic possibilities stormed my mind, each one more terrifying than the last. My thumb hovered over the green accept button. Fear warred with a desperate, all-consuming hope. What if it was her? What if, by some miracle, she was on the other end of this line? With a deep, shuddering breath, I swiped to answer. I pressed the cold screen to my ear, my own breathing loud and ragged. "Sarah," I whispered, my voice cracking. "Sarah, is that you?" There was no answer, just a faint rhythmic sound. A slow, steady beat, looped up, looped up. It took me a moment to place it. A heartbeat. A slow, deliberate heartbeat, pulsing through the receiver. Then, beneath the heartbeat, another sound emerged. A soft, crackling static like a radio struggling to find a station. It grew louder, more insistent, slowly drowning out the sound of the beating heart until there was nothing left but a wall of white noise, and then complete and total silence. The call had ended. The screen went black. The house was quiet once more, but this silence was different. It was heavier, colder, filled with a new and unspeakable dread. She was gone, but something had just reached out from wherever she was. And I had a terrible feeling that this was only the beginning. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell so you don't miss what happens next.